Hi, I'm Sister Geralyn Schmidt, and you're listening to Musings from a Catholic Evangelist. It's a couple of years ago, I was sitting in the Cathedral of St. Patrick in Harrisburg, and it was on Easter Sunday, and a gentleman, and the church was very much filled with people, and young gentleman came in carrying probably an 18-month-old, 2-year-old girl who was dressed beautifully. She had this fluffy little coat on, these little bunny ears, patent leather shoes, some lace tights, and she had Down syndrome. And I moved over and I said to the gentleman, "Come sit next to me." Well, I was this little girl's best friend, you know, and suddenly during Mass, she had her shoes kicked off and she was sticking her feet into my face, wanting kisses, and she was rubbing behind me, going through my purse, finding all the goodies, and her father was completely embarrassed, and I'm like, no, let her alone. Her cuteness was just amazing, and everybody around me was giggling too because of the way I just took it in stride. That's what a mother does. During the consecration of the Mass, her father had her cradled with her legs around his torso and her head in his one hand and her upper body in the other. And he would look down at her and she would look up at him in the same way, in the same respect as Father was handling the Blessed Sacrament. Wow. Like, that was a beautiful moment for me on how live, the living aspect of what the Eucharist is about. And it still gives me great pause. That story reminds me of Blessed Pauline von Mallinckrodt. She was the foundress of the Sisters of Christian Charity, and I'm a sister of Christian Charity, so in a sense, she's my spiritual mother. She, as a young child, she realized what motherhood was all about. There's a story, a very famous story, that I'd love to share with a lot of people who don't know anything about her. When she was 9, so she grew up, she was born in 1817, and she grew up right in the beginning of the Industrial Revolution in Paderborn, Germany. And she had wealthy parents. And she was, as a 9-year-old, she was often taken back as she was walking to school about the number of pieces of glass that was on the road. And she realized that the poor children didn't have shoes. So she, a couple times, kept on collecting glass as she found them and put them in her book bag. And after the third time of being late to school, her teacher grabbed her book bag and said, "Pauline, what do you have in here?" And she put her eyes down and said, "I have pieces of glass." And the teacher's like, "Why?" She's like, "I was afraid that the poor children who didn't have shoes, their feet would be cut." So even as a child, she realized what a mother does. Totally. As a sister, she came across a young woman who had Down syndrome, and her mother was a florist. She had a little wagon, and she was selling flowers at the corner of a road. And this young woman with Downs, really wasn't being taken care of. So Pauline went to her mother and said to her mother, "Let me take care of your daughter, please." She deloused her. She gave her an education. She taught her how to weave and how to embroider. Besides having Downs, she was also blind. So the pictures of Blessed Pauline von Mallinckrodt, you see this young girl, this young woman at her elbow, and that's little Margaret. Little Margaret became, in a sense, her spiritual daughter, in a very real sense, because she looked after the needs of Margaret. But Pauline's story doesn't stop there. In 1873, she writes a letter to Bishop Shanahan that we have, the translations into English, asking for permission for sisters to come to teach in St. Lawrence in Harrisburg and to teach in St. Hubert's in Danville. Now, St. Hubert's now is a merged parish with St. Joseph's. In addition to St. Joseph's or St. Hubert's, the sisters also opened up an orphanage in Danville as well. And there's the history of my congregation. We began working with German immigrants, but we blossomed into beyond that. Total, complete dedication to being a mother. Bishop, in the letter correspondence to Bishop Shanahan, she writes about us. I cherish the gratifying hope that Your Excellency will graciously accept our little congregation among the number of your spiritual children. And I'm happy to promise, in the name of all the sisters who will work and labor in your diocese, that they will ever prove themselves truly obedient and loyal devoted daughters of Your Excellency, intent ever on furthering the honor of God and the welfare of souls. I know, and I can truthfully say, that the Sisters of Christian Charity, when dealing with students and dealing in schools, always looked with the eyes on global church and the beauty of that. Besides educating them with math and science and English and social studies, isn't that what a mother does? You're listening to Musings from a Catholic Evangelist, and I'm Sister Geralyn.